So in Python, lists are conceptually very straightforward. They're just a simple list of elements which you can access. It turns out in Python, lists are surprisingly rich because not only can you do everything we just said, but in addition, there are the functions we've talked about, and there's also other things you can do. So far, we've talked about indexes, which lets you access an individual element of a list, but there's also a way to access a range or a sublist within a list. Let's take a look at how Python does that. Going to run Python again, set up the same list I had before, flies, which had 7 items. Remember, we could use the index number 3, sleepy, which is the 4th item, right? Instead, what if we wanted to access the first 4 items? That is, flies 0, 1, 2, and 3. Well, we can do that in Python by specifying 2 indexes separated by the colon character. The tricky thing here is if I want to do what I just said, get items 0, 1, 2, and 3, I have to use this mechanism, which Python calls slicing, by specifying the starting index and up to but not including the final index. So in other words, when I say flies of 0:4, that's going to give me all the flies starting at 0 and going up to but not including 4. It's a little bit confusing, but you'll find out that there is some reason to the madness of the way that Python did that. And we can put any 2 indexes in there. So now we can also quickly see why we have this weird mechanism of the second number being 1 more than the item it retrieves, and that's because it makes it a little bit easier to get a full list by going up to an index and then continuing from that index. So flies of 0 through 4 and then add on flies 4 through 7 will give us the entire list. Python slicing lets you do one more trick, which is if you don't know how long the list is, you can just use the colon but leave the second number off and it'll give you all the way up to the end. So for example, I can say flies 4 colon and not specify a second number, and that'll give us the flies starting at the index number 4 all the way up through the end. Similarly, we can leave off the first one and say give me everything starting at the beginning up to the item before the 4th, so this will give us 0, 1, 2, and 3, or give us the first 4. And that's slicing of lists. It turns out that Python uses this slicing concept for other things as well. In fact, whenever you have a sequence of elements, you can slice. Well, it turns out we already have talked about a sequence of things before, and that is strings. Remember our strings. Let's just get a single fly, say the first one. So now fly is a variable whose value is the string buggy. Well, buggy is a string, but it is a sequence of letters, and we can use slicing on those sequences. In fact, we can use indexing as well. So we can say fly of 0 will give us the first character of the string. Fly of 2, 0, 1, 2, will give us the third character of the string. Or we can say fly of 0:2, which is going to give us how many characters? Well, it's not 3, because remember, a slice starts at 0 and goes up to, but doesn't include the second index. So that'll give us the first 2 characters. Similarly, we can ask for all of the characters of the string starting at, say, index, we'll say index 2, going up to the end, which is GGY. And just as before, we can combine things. So fly of 0:2 is a string, BU, and we can concatenate that with the string starting at index number 2 to the end, and that will give us the entire string. And that is all of slicing.